Hi friends, welcome to Ajay Automates channel. In this video, we are going to quickly see about the revised Selenium WebDriver interview questions asked in 2024 in many companies like TCS, Infosys, EPAM, Accenture, etc. Okay, so these questions are commonly asked and many questions are tricky too. So please watch the complete video. This will be definitely useful in your interview and career. Okay, let's start. So the first question is, what is the latest Selenium version and what are the new features available in the latest Selenium version? This question was asked a few weeks back in an interview for my candidate. Okay, so you need to be updated in the latest Selenium versions getting released in the market. Okay, so now currently the version is 4.25.0. Okay, and it's released in September 24 and you need to read the release notes also. Okay, so consider 4.24.0 old version. So the bugs in 4.24.0 got fixed in 4.25.0. Okay, so they would have provided that bug details in the release notes. Whatever they have fixed, they would have provided the information in the release notes. Okay, so in this latest version they are supporting Chrome dev tools version 129, 128, etc. Okay, also in this version they are implementing bi-directional WebDriver protocol for .NET language. Okay, so these kinds of information you have to read it in the release notes. Okay, so please be updated in the latest Selenium versions. So how do you launch browser in a particular dimension and what is the use of Chrome options? So we can launch our automating web browser in a particular dimension. Okay, so for launching the browser in a maximized way, we can use driver.manage.window.maximize. But if we need to open a browser in particular dimension, we have to use Chrome options class. Okay, so the use of Chrome options is it provides various operations like opening Chrome in headless browser mode. We can set the browser size and we can open the browser in maximize mode as well using Chrome options. If you see the code here, I'm opening the browser in maximize mode and I'm positioning the window to 1920 and 1080 dimension. Okay, so this is also a tricky question. Instead of asking what is the use of Chrome option, they might ask how do you launch browser in a particular dimension. Okay, so let's see the next question. What is the use of decide capabilities? This is a common question asked in many interviews. Okay, so basically we can set the browser properties like name, settings, versions and platforms, etc. using the decide properties. Okay, so you can explain that line as well as if they ask the syntax, you can explain decide capabilities, capability equal to decide capabilities dot browser name. Okay, and capability dot set browser name set platforms are supported in decide capabilities class. Okay, basically we can set the browser properties using decide capabilities. Okay, so this is one important question. So why is WebDriver called as an interface? Okay, this is also commonly asked in many interviews, or they can ask what are the interfaces you are aware of in your automation framework. Okay, so the first thing is you need to know what is an interface and why WebDriver is called as an interface. Interface basically achieves abstraction. Okay, abstractions mean we won't see any code inside the method block, we will just see an empty body. Okay, that is what abstraction achieves. So why is WebDriver called as an interface? Because inside WebDriver there are many implementations provided. Okay, like Chrome driver, Firefox driver, Safari driver are some of the classes of the WebDriver implementation. Okay, this is very important question. This question can be asked like why is WebDriver called as an interface, or they can ask like what interfaces you are aware of in your automation framework. You can explain WebDriver is an interface and you can explain this answer. Okay, so what are some of the methods which WebDriver interface provides? This is an easy question. So WebDriver interface provides methods like get, quit, close, get window handles, get title, etc. Okay, so next question is, if you have multiple web element with same name or ID in a web page, what will find element do in this case? Okay, consider you have multiple web elements with the same name or ID. So what will web element do? Find element do in this case? So find element basically performs action in the first matching web element. Okay, there might be hundreds of web elements in the same name, but find element only perform actions in the first matching web element. Okay, so it will return the first matching criteria. That is the answer for this question. And if they ask what is a find web element, it's a method used in Selenium to find the web elements in the page using given locator. Okay. So the next question is, how do you verify whether a web page contains 404 error code during page launch? So while automating, we have to make sure during page load there are no unwanted errors present inside the web page. Okay, so we can basically achieve using get page source. So using get page source option, we can verify whether the page contains 404 error during page launch. Okay, just assert it, and using get page source method you can verify this scenario. Okay. So in which scenario you have used find elements? So you might have used find elements in particular cases, right? So let's see what are the practical usage of using find elements. I have used find elements in cases like finding broken links in a web page. I want to get all the web links and I want to make sure whether there are any broken links present. Okay, so for getting all the web elements link, we can use find elements. Okay, so it basically returns a list of web elements in the web page. Okay, this is very important here. It returns a list of web elements. Okay, find element just returns the first matching element, whereas find elements returns a list of web elements. Okay, that's the major difference. And you can explain examples like I've used find elements in this test scenario as well. Okay, finding broken links, etc. The next question is, how does your Selenium test script interacts with browsers? How communication channel is established? Basically, you need to be good in WebDriver architecture, explaining WebDriver architecture here. They are asking how communication channel is established between your test script and the browser. Okay, Selenium provides a control called JSON wire protocol. It helps us to communicate between the test script and the browser. So if the question comes in communication channel, you can explain JSON wire protocol helps us to communicate between the test script and the browser, and basically it's a web service. Okay, it runs in HTTP. Okay, that is the answer for this question. So what is your preferred locator for identifying web elements? So if I have ID, I'll definitely go for ID. Then I will go for XPath. Okay, so my ID values are unique, so we go for ID if you have ID, or then you can go for CSS selector or XPath. Okay, so next question is, when do you go for absolute XPath strategy? So absolute XPath we can go for when we have dynamic web elements. Okay, suppose there are no direct ways to locate web elements, we can go for absolute XPath strategy, as well as when we have dynamic web elements appearing, we can go for absolute XPath strategy. Okay, basically you have to write the XPath from root node to the desired web element. So do you prefer absolute XPath or relative XPath? Definitely relative XPath, because it directly points to the web element, whereas absolute XPath, it comes from top to the desired web element. So the main disadvantage here is, if there are developer is implementing any new changes, our absolute XPath might get broken because of the new changes. Okay, the HTML structure might get changed, and some of the divs or anything might have values might get changed. That's the main issue in absolute XPath. So the answer for this is relative XPath, but is because it's the direct way to locate web elements. So purpose of waits is basically sometimes web elements might take longer time to load. At that time we can go for waits. Okay, usage in Selenium. So at that time our test might throw no such element exception. Okay, so sometimes if a page is taking more time to load, we will receive this exception, right? No such element. So at that time we can go for using wait strategy. Let's see what are the different types of waits available in Selenium: implicit, explicit, and fluent wait. Implicit wait is globally used in an automation framework used to set waiting time throughout the web elements in the program. Okay, whereas the explicit wait is used only for particular instances, like waiting for visibility of a web element or waiting for an alert for a often is present or not. Okay, implicit wait globally used, whereas explicit wait is used only for particular instances. Okay, coming to fluent wait, consider a web element is appearing in certain intervals of time or polling of time. Okay, at that time we can use fluent wait. Okay, so these are the different types of waits used in Selenium. So use of assertion in Selenium. Assertion is used to check whether the actual and expected result are the same. You can explain an example wherever you have used assertion. So using assertion, we have automated page titles, web element present or not, or web element visible or not also can be done using assertion. Okay. So what design pattern you follow for test scripting? Page object model is a popular design pattern mostly used in our automation framework. For every web page in the application, we would have having corresponding object classes. Okay, page object model improves code reusability and readability. This is a common question asked in many interviews. So write XPath for a link which contains text. I am in a meeting. Okay, so basically you have to write an XPath here using contains attribute. You can definitely identify this web element. Okay, / tag name contains text meeting. Okay, I don't have to write the entire text using, since I am using contains, I have to provide a part of the text here. Okay, so how do you scroll down to particular web element using Selenium? So in a web page, there might be, in a bigger web page, we have to scroll down to the middle of the page and click on any buttons or validate any text in the middle of the page. At the time, what we can do is we can use JavaScript executor, and using JavaScript executor we can scroll into the particular web element. Okay, that is one way. Also we can use actions class, okay, and move to that particular element using actions.moveToElement. Okay, so there are two approaches here. One is use JavaScript executor and the other one is using action strategy. We can scroll down to particular web element. Okay, so how do you click on OK button in an alert message which appear in a new window? If you see this image, we can see an alert message. You basically have to click on OK button. So what can we do here? First we have to switch Selenium control inside this alert message, and then we can use accept method and click on OK button. Suppose if you have to click cancel button, you can use dismiss method. Okay, next question is, what is the difference you see between get and navigate commands? So this is also a common question asked in many interviews. Okay, get is basically directly goes to the provided URL, whereas navigate, using navigate we can go forward, backward of a web page. Also navigate maintains the browser history and cookies. Okay, so this is one main answer here. Driver.navigate maintains the browser history and cookies, so we can go forward and backward using driver.navigate. Okay, that is the main difference between get and navigate. So what is the main usage of send keys? As you know, send keys basically we can input text in a text box. So the next question, without using send keys, how can we input text? So without using send keys, we can use JavaScript executor and we can provide values inside the text box or any text fields. Okay, so sometimes they might ask, without using, I don't want to use send keys, how will you input text? Okay, just say using JavaScript executor we can achieve this scenario. How do you mouse over a web element? So for hovering mouse we can use actions class. Okay, suppose to consider a scenario where you have to hover mouse over link or button and validate the text. You have to use actions class utility and just automate that web element. Okay, so the answer for this is, using actions class we can hover mouse over web element and validate that particular test case. How to perform right click using WebDriver? This is also basically mouse actions, keyboard actions can be validated using actions class. Okay, for this also we can use actions class. How to set browser window size to a particular dimension? Okay, so the particular window size can be achieved using JavaScript executor also. Okay, so using window.resize concept we can launch the browser to a particular dimension. Also this can be achieved using Chrome options as well. I think our second question was related to Chrome option. Using JavaScript executor also we can achieve this test scenario. Okay, next question, how will you automate tooltips in Selenium? Nowadays web pages contains lot of tooltips, so basically you have to use get attribute method and get the value of the tooltip and print the message. Okay, so next question is, how will you handle dynamic dropdowns in Selenium? So there are different types of dropdown. Okay, simple dropdown, just click on the dropdown, validate all the values. Dynamic dropdown means the first value you are clicking, consider you are clicking a first value in the dropdown. Okay, based on the first click the second option will be displayed. Okay, that kind of dropdowns are called as dynamic dropdown. So what we can do in this case is, Use wait techniques to make sure drop down is loaded. Once you click the first element, to make sure second element is loaded, make sure you are using a wait concept there. Once drop down is visible, locate the drop down and identify using any locators. Okay, then you can use the select by value index or visible text to automate that drop down. Okay, what is the main usage of TestNG library? So it's kind of, there are many usage of TestNG library. Okay, reporting, it supports parallel execution, grouping. TestNG annotations make the code more readable. Okay, so you can explain this usages. And what are the TestNG annotations you are aware of? Before test, before suit, at test, after method. All these annotations are very important, so make sure you learn about all these annotations. So if you have multiple attest annotation in a class file, which test will be running first? So basically, if you have multiple attest annotation, consider you have 10 test methods using a TestNG annotation attest. So what test method will run first? It goes with the alphabetical order. Okay, suppose consider a test name start with A. The first test, A particular test will be executed with A. Okay, next test with B might get executed. So basically, test runs in alphabetical order. So how will you prioritize tests using TestNG? We can prioritize using priority attribute. Okay, the test script given priority 0 will be executed first and 1 will be executed next and goes on. So usage of TestNG XML file is to run multiple tests in a single execution. We go for TestNG.xml file or any XML file suits. Okay, basically we have smoke test suits, regression test suits inside the XML file, right? So we group multiple test cases there. So that is a major usage of this TestNG XML file. So grouping is a very important question asked in interviews. So what is grouping in TestNG? Basically, we can group smoke test cases, regression test cases, UI test cases, API test cases using grouping concept. Okay, near the attest name, provide your group name, and in your XML file also you can provide the group names and segregate your tests accordingly. Okay, using this TestNG grouping concept. How do you create dependencies in TestNG? Suppose if you want to execute one test case based on another test case, there is an annotation in TestNG called depends on methods. Okay, just add this annotation near the attest attribute. Okay, and we can create dependencies between test cases using this depends on methods annotation. How do you pass test data using TestNG? So using data provider annotation, we can achieve this. So it supplies test data to a test method and it provides test data from a variety of sources, including databases and Excel sheet. Okay. So what is parameterization? Suppose if you want to run one test with test method multiple times with different values. Okay, we consider you have one test case, but you want to run the one test case with the different test data. So you can go for parameterization. Okay, so you can achieve parameterization using testng.xml file as well as data providers. So this is also very important question because you might have multiple user credentials. You might execute one test case with different login credentials. We have to use parameterization there. So can we use Selenium for mobile testing? With Selenium alone, we cannot go for automated mobile testing. You have to combine Selenium with EPAM. Okay, an open source mobile automation framework to perform automated mobile testing. What type of automation framework you use? You might use data-driven, keyword-driven or BDD framework. Explain what is data-driven, they ask. So basically data-driven and keyword-driven are used for complex application. Okay, whereas BDD-driven is used for smaller applications, smaller scale applications. So what are the components of your framework? So basically you might have a base class, resources package, object repository, reporting, Docker file, YAML file for CI/CD execution, TestNG XML file. So you can explain the different components of your automation framework. Suppose you are having 200 test cases in which 30 are failing. How will you identify the failed test cases? So using TestNG, if you are using TestNG library, after test generation, a TestNG fail.xml file gets generated. So we can see the TestNG fail.xml file under test output folder. This is also asking many interviews. Okay, just click on that XML file and you can see what are the test cases which are failed. So per sprint, how many test cases you automate? You might be in a 2-week sprint or 3-week sprint. So you can explain. So basically you might do manual testing also. So we would have time to do only 2 or 3 high priority test cases, 5 to 6 medium priority test cases, and if it is very low priority, we can automate around 8 to 10 test cases. Explain about your automation process. Basically you have to explain how do you automate the test cases. So you reveal the requirements, create test scripts, and what will happen after creating test scripts. You will send it for review to your manager or TL, and after their approval you might create a PR and merge it to master batch. This is the automation process. So what major challenges you have faced during automation? So you can explain whatever challenges you have faced here. Okay, so I have faced challenges while automating dynamic web elements, and so my application works in different things. Okay, so there are multiple applications I have to automate in a single flow. So there are many integration test cases. Sometimes data won't sync between the test cases. At that time I have faced many challenges. So another one is during CI/CD integration part, I have faced many challenges. What is exception test in Selenium? This is an important question. Basically, you already know what exception you are going to see during executing this test case, and we are catching that exception using try catch mechanism. Okay, you already know what exception will come, and you are catching that exception using try catch and making sure the next line of code gets executed. Okay, that is exception test in Selenium. So types of exceptions you see during automation: no such element, null pointer, timeout, element not visible. This is a easy question. So do you prefer soft assertion or hard assertion? So soft assertion is more preferred, because in hard assertion, if the result is not matching with the expected result, what happens? The further, if you have 10 test cases, if the first test case is failing, the remaining 9 won't get executed when you use hard assertion. Whereas if you use soft assertion, even after a failure, the test cases will run. That is the main difference. Okay, all the, consider first test case is failing, the remaining 9 tests will still get executed if you using soft assertion. That is the main difference. Okay, so what is the use of robot class? So it's a Java based utility class. Okay, suppose if you are not able to automate any keyboard or mouse and interactions using Selenium inbuilt libraries, you can use robot class for automating keyboard and mouse interactions. Okay, so how do you upload a file using chain keys? We can upload files in Selenium. Also we can use robot class for uploading files. So limitations of Selenium WebDriver, you already know. I think this is an easy question. Selenium, we cannot automate captchas, and we cannot automate what desktop applications using Selenium. Okay, so we cannot automate desktop applications alone using Selenium. You might have to use third-party libraries here. How will you validate the text color CSS attributes using Selenium? This is an important question. Okay, so as an UI automation engineer, you basically have to check the text color and CSS attributes using get CSS value method. We can automate this text case, and text color, button color, background color, everything we can validate using get CSS value attribute. Okay, so basically it returns, get CSS value returns values in RGBA format like this 255 to 501, and we can convert RGBA to hexadecimal using color class. Using color.fromString.asx, we will get this exact color code here. Okay, so the 50th question is, what is WebDriverIO? So WebDriverIO is basically used for testing web application and native mobile applications for iOS enabled devices. Okay, so for iOS enabled devices web applications, this WebDriver.io framework is basically used. Okay, so while using the click command, can you use screen coordinates? Yes, we can definitely. Using the click command, we can use screen coordinates. Okay, using in Selenium, we have a command called clickcut, where we can get a click on a part of the web element, part of the link, maybe using by adding x and y coordinates. Okay, so you can try an example. If you have Eclipse IDE editor, just try this clickcut command usage. Okay, so the question is, can you use screen coordinate while clicking using the click command? Yes, using clickcut command, we can click the specific part of the element. The element locator and xy coordinates are accepted as arguments for this test case. Okay. Next question, how do you confirm the exact position of a web element in the web page? So basically we need to identify the position of a web element in the web page. Okay, so using verify element position left and verify element position top methods, we can validate this test case. Okay, what it does, it makes the pixel comparison of the web page to determine the position of the web elements. So how do you handle hidden web elements in Selenium WebDriver? Using JavaScript executor, we can handle hidden elements. Okay. So what is headless driver? You might have used headless driver in your test cases. So headless drivers are basically used for faster test execution. Basically headless drivers, we don't use it in local test execution. In CI/CD test execution, we might go for headless drivers. Okay. So for example, if you launch the applications in Chrome headless drivers, the test execution will be faster compared to the normal UI browser test execution. This is important question. Okay. So headless drivers are basically using CI/CD test execution mostly. So we have come to the end of our presentation. So thank you for watching this video. Please do subscribe my channel if you are looking for more automation testing training related videos. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.